Hey everybody, Joe Casabona here, and yesterday, WordPress 5.6 Simone came out. It is the last major release for WordPress in 2020, so I thought that we could do a quick walkthrough of a lot of the major features. Obviously, I'm not going to go through everything here. This is a video. There have been lots of great articles explaining a lot of the finer details that I'll link to in the description for this video down below. But this is going to be a very show and tell sort of thing. So let's take a look at the blog post that came out yesterday with the release of Simone. So first of all, it's called Simone after the jazz singer. This was also a little bit of an homage to the fact that this is the first full all-women release squad. So congratulations to the release squad for 5.6. There are a lot of really great features here. Lots of layout flexibility. So you can do a lot more things with like single column blocks or different kinds of layouts. Part of the reason for that is more block patterns. So 5.6, actually 5.5 introduced the idea of block patterns, which are these templates for blocks, not quite reusable blocks, right? Because reusable blocks are these global specific pieces of content. Block patterns are these essentially descriptions of how the blocks should look. So 5.6 has some more, and 2021, the new default theme, has a bunch more. So we'll take a look at those too. You can now directly add subtitles or captions to your videos right into the block editor. 2021 is here. Now, I am going to be doing a live stream later today. That is Wednesday the 9th on using 2021. I'm actually going to take my current website, casabona.org, and see how much of that I can recreate in 2021. Always a fun exercise. There's definitely going to be differences, but we'll see how far we can get with these new block patterns and things like that. I will be cheating a little bit because the theme I'm using, Authority Pro, is very block driven, but that's besides the point. So 2021 looks fantastic. We'll go over that. The big kind of non-editor changes are expanding auto updates, so we'll get into that. There is a lot of there's a strong commitment to accessibility. And then there's some under the hood developer stuff. So PHP 8 support, jQuery migration happening, and more. So we'll talk about that. If you want the full details, you can check out the WordPress 5.6 field guide. This has everything in 5.6, as well as cross-references to other blog posts that talk deeper about each specific feature. So that's the 5.6 field guide. I'll link to that in the description as well. And then there's also the core editor overview over on make.wordpress. So this goes into some of the more specific changes of 5.6. For example, you now have better color controls over the list block. This is crazy, but I was actually looking for this like a few weeks ago, maybe like 2 weeks ago, and I was frustrated to see that you didn't have this, so I'm happy to see it in 5.6. One mention of WordPress 5.6 is that it merged all of the features of Gutenberg 9.2. The current Gutenberg plugin is on 9.5, so if you want the latest but possibly beta features of the block editor, you'll have to get the Gutenberg 9.5 plugin. Everything in 9.2 or below has been deemed stable enough to be in the WordPress 5.6 core update. I know that's a little bit confusing. So you can also create richer backgrounds with the new cover block video position controls. So the original cover block was just images. Now it's videos. Now you have more control over it. You can create sharper gradients. You have more control over the image size in the new media and text blocks, which is cool. And now there's a new one column block option, as well as the ability to transform several blocks into a column with one click, which is great. There's also some non-content based improvements like the time zone hints and the new preferences panel, formerly the options panel. We'll get into all of that as well. As a matter of fact, let's jump over to WordPress 5.6. I'm going to make my face disappear so you can see this even better. So when you upgrade to WordPress 5.6, you'll get a pretty good overview of everything. This is mostly what's in the blog post. It might be exactly what's in that blog post that I showed you at the beginning, which named it Simone, named this release Simone. And then there's some information. So the first thing I'll say here is that jQuery is undergoing a migration, an upgrade within WordPress core. There are some complexities to this because lots of themes and plugins rely on the WordPress core version of jQuery. So the migration or the update is taking place over 3 releases. It started in 5.5. We're at the midpoint here in 5.6, and it will be completed in 5.7, which is scheduled for March of 2021. There are 2 ways that you can make sure your site is ready for the jQuery changes. You can use the update test plugin, which is linked to right here. You can install it right on your WordPress dashboard. Or you can also install the jQuery migrate plugin. This was the major thing that changed in 5.6. So if you need the jQuery migrate plugin, you can install that specifically. So I'll probably release a separate standalone video on how to do this. It's something I cover in the WordPress Year in Review ebook I'm writing, but I just want to point that out. If you are thinking of upgrading to 5.6 and something breaks, it might be jQuery related, so go ahead and double check that. Speaking of updates, if we go to dashboard updates, let me move myself out of the way here again. A big change has happened in 5.6, namely that you can enable automatic updates for all new versions of WordPress. At this point, or before 5.6, I should say, the automatic updates were only for maintenance and security releases. The idea being that major versions of WordPress bring about major changes, and you might not want that to happen automatically. As of 5.6, that changes. So there are the updates take a 3-pronged approach here. You can see that I have a button here or a link here, enable automatic updates for all new versions of WordPress. If you are updating a pre-existing WordPress website from 5.5 to 5.6 or 5.4 to 5.6, whatever, if your website is a pre-existing install of WordPress, updates will not be turned on automatically. If you are installing 5.6 from scratch cleanly, so if you are adding a new installation of WordPress for versions 5.6 or newer, automatic updates of all versions of WordPress will be turned on by default, and you will have to turn them off on the dashboard updates page. So if you already have a website and you're upgrading to 5.6, automatic updates of major versions of WordPress core will be turned off by default, and you have to turn them on. If tomorrow you are installing a brand new WordPress website for yourself or for a client, major updates will be turned on by default. There are 2 caveats here. You can override that in code. So if there's a plugin or a theme, or most likely a hosting company, we'll talk about that in a second, that added a line of code saying, hey, turn off automatic updates or only do it for major versions, don't do it for betas or release candidates, also options. Those code changes will take precedence over whatever you do in the dashboard. There's also a way to just turn off the ability to manage updates from the dashboard. And similarly, if a hosting company, if your web host has preferences for how updates should be managed, those preferences will take precedent over everything else. So you can manage this from the dashboard. You can change it in code. That will take precedence over what's in the dashboard. Or if your hosting company says this is how we manage WordPress updates, that will take precedence. So just a million caveats that you should be aware of here. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's take a look at some of the changes in the block editor. So we'll do WordPress 5.6. So you can actually see one of the changes I did not mention here is if I go to, let's just do this now, right? If I click on options and then I go to the preferences area right here, preferences, this panel has been renamed from options. And there are some more controls here, including this checkbox display button labels. So you can see if I uncheck display button labels, we just see the icons. If I turn that on, we'll see the actual labels, which is a little bit more accessible for people. It's a little clearer for a lot of people who might not be familiar with the editor. So maybe they don't know what like this arrow means. So there are some preference updates here, which are worth checking out. A few of the blocks that I mentioned, for example, the list block, if we add that and then we open the settings panel, we could see I now have some color settings here. So I can make the text color white and the background this navy. Just as an aside, I am using 2021 here, and I just love the color palette that they've chosen. It's like these pastel colors. It's really beautiful. I'm missing an S on WordPress. It's really beautiful. And I just love what they did. It looks absolutely fantastic. So we do have some control over the color palette here for lists. We can also change this to a gradient and pick one of the predefined gradients. We can, again, like I said, create sharper gradients here. So that's a really nice change as well. So that's the list block. If I add, let's say, a couple more blocks here, just pick a random picture. This is one of my favorites. I tend to use this in all of my demos. And then let's add there were changes to the cover block, I said, right? So we can choose some media here. I don't actually have a video uploaded, so but I can tell you that the video controls will have the same controls that we see here for the image, right? Where we can specifically define the position of the video. We're also going to make this wide. Hello there. And finally, the media block, the media and text block, got some more controls too, right? So if I add, let's say me and this stormtrooper, actually that looks like a clone trooper. Sorry. And then I can add some content here. But I have more control over how this image appears, right? So I can make it, whoops, that's actually the whole block. I can change the vertical alignment. I can change the alignment of the image. And then if I click in on the image, I should be able to, right? According to that blog post, I should be able to change the size of the image here to what I want. So we also have some new styles here. At least these appear new to me, where we can have it default or add a border, which is pretty cool. And then, of course, we have the color controls here as well. So that is the media and column, media and text block. Now, what we can do is I can select multiple blocks. I'm holding Shift down. You can also, if you hold Shift down and select the blocks that you want. So I'm in this block. I'll hold Shift and select all of the blocks I want. I can click this icon here to change it to columns. And so it changes it. Wow. It changes it to, if I'm all the way up here. Changes it to 4 columns, 1 column per block. I can change that to 2 columns if I'd like. I don't know where the rest of my content just went though. So that's a little troubling. Wow. So that's really interesting. Something to be aware of here is I changed it to, I dropped the number of columns down to 2. I would have expected the blocks in those columns to move, and they seem to have just disappeared. So I don't know if that's a bug. I will be sure to report it to the fine folks at WordPress, but that's something to be to the WordPress core team, I should say. But that's something to be aware of here, right? Is I might have just, it looks like I lost content. So if I undo a bunch of the things I just did, I'm pressing Control Z. It looks like if you want this to be 2 columns, you better move this block out to the column you want it to be in first, and then drop the number of columns. Otherwise, you will risk losing content. So something to be aware of. Yeah, see, I just lost content again because I accidentally dropped down to 1 column. That's crazy. But let's continue on with our test. I'll just move this into the second column. We also have a few new styles here for the columns. So if I move up all the way to the main columns, we have what can be overlapping columns. I'm unclear if this is 2021 or if this is 5.6. The images, like the thumbnails here would tell me it's probably 2021. So that is the columns block. So with that, let's take a look at block patterns. Because there are a lot, I'm going to click the plus button here and then browse all. So there's a section here, a tab called patterns. You could see 2021 has a bunch of new ones and they're really nice. Like I said, Mel and the design team for 2021 did a really fantastic job, I think. But aside from 2021s, there are a few new block patterns worth exploring. Again, I'm just going to pick one of the block patterns from 2021, overlapping images. I'll click that and it gets added here. So we'll make some room. I guess I clicked it twice. This is nice. We have these overlapping images, right? These are styled by 2021 and defined by 2021. But we don't have to worry about adding any extra CSS. We can just pick an image that we want to upload. So if I go to the media, I'll pick, silly pictures of me. And then, so this is interesting because I haven't, there we go. Little weird bug there with the infinite scrolling. But yeah, if I just pick some of these images and replace them, now I have a nice overlapping images gallery thanks to the block patterns here in 2021. Let's take a look at 2021 really quickly. And like I said, I'll be doing a fuller video on 2021 for my live stream. That's again today, Wednesday the 9th. If you are watching this relatively early, if you're not, the replay will be on YouTube, so you should be able to see that video as well. So this is 2021. I really love it. It's very simple. It uses the system fonts, so it's incredibly fast. It's I think it's AAA certified for accessibility. That's like the highest level of accessibility you can have. It's a single column. It uses this pastel green color, and we saw the pastel color palette. And then it uses 2 kind of dark grays for the text colors. The real power of this theme is that it does take advantage of lots of block patterns. So you have a lot of flexibility here. Something else that I don't think enough people talk about is that this theme supports dark mode, which I think is incredible. You know, the site will change based on dark mode. So actually, let me open up an incognito window so you can actually see how this works. So if I go to vanilla.demo, it's my local demo name for this. And then, so dark mode is off. Let's turn it on. Once I turn it on and refresh the page, dark mode is enabled on the page. If I turn dark mode off on my computer, dark mode is turned off. So I think that's great. I don't think enough people have talked about that. I just think it's really cool. And then, of course, you can change that in the customizer. So as far as 2021 goes with customizer modifications, you can select your color, your background color. They offer a few options here. I would recommend going with one of those because, again, the pastel colors work really well with everything else they've done. And then you can turn on or off dark mode support. I'm going to keep it on because I think it's great. All right. So that is it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions about WordPress 5.6, let me know in the comments below. If you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel for more great content.